Hey folks, what's going on? Thanks for joining us and logging in right here on Facebook for our first ever Fish East live podcast. I'm your host, Ben Wu. I'm also host of Fish East, and for the next hour, we're going to spend some intimate time talking to you, getting to know you guys, the fishing enthusiasts, the fishing enthusiasts across the Maritimes here in Atlantic, Canada. And for those of you who have made the time to join us, we thank you very much. We do appreciate it. And I can't be more honored and excited to be able to launch this new podcast that is really going to explore the many opportunities, the many topics, the passion that we all share as anglers, especially multi-species anglers. But on this quest and on this mission, I am not alone. I have a very, very reliable sidekick and teammate. And without further ado, I'm going to bring him on right now so that he can join the party. Welcome to the show, my co-host, Mr. Donald Patterson. What's going on, Donnie?
Not a lot, Ben. Just excited to get this new show going, and the podcast, the TV show, everything we've got going on. It's just been an exciting year so far.
You dropped a lot of info there in like your first opening sentence, but we're going to slow it down for the folks at home. For those of you joining us, Fish East is something that isn't actually that old. To be honest with you, we've only been around for when did you say we start, Donnie?
October.
Less
than a year.
So let's say the birth of Fish East started back in October of 2019. And I think we're going to take the first 5 minutes to talk a little bit about where Fish East came from and where it's going and what all the buzz is about. Now, let's not forget the big star of the show today. We've got a really special guest. His name is Mike Holland, avid outdoorsman. You know him as well, I guess, our former Minister of Natural Resources as of, 2 days ago. But he's our good friend, and he'll be joining us later. Did I get that right, Donnie?
Yeah, technically, when we booked this show, Mike was still the active Minister of Natural Resources, and then we ended up with an election call here in New Brunswick, and government's been dissolved. So technically, right now, he's a candidate. But he definitely has been a very active Minister of Natural Resources in his first term. And, it's going to be exciting to talk to Mike about some of the initiatives that he's been able to put in place since they took office. And, we'll see what he has in mind if they're able to return to office in September when the election is held.
I'll tell you more than that. Mike is a good friend of ours. He is an avid outdoorsman, loves fishing. He's part of the Fish East crew. He writes articles. He's a contributor. He's a dear friend. So I can't wait to get him on the show. Before that, let's rewind a little bit about how Fish East started so the folks at home know, what it's all about. Donnie, I remember when we came up with the idea. First of all, for those of you that don't know, I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec. I was born and raised there my entire life. And last December, I decided to, uproot my entire family and make the big move. And now I call myself a New Brunswicker. I've been a New Brunswicker, my family here since December. Knowing that move was going to happen, I obviously, being someone very passionate about fishing my entire career, wanted to do something. And I talked to Donnie about it. And we're good friends, obviously. And we came up with this idea to showcase what we love most. And what we love most is multi-species angling. And what does that mean? It's a big word, multi-species. It means that we love fishing. It means whatever opportunities present themselves, whether it's, from a boat, from a dock, from shore, from a beach, from a kayak, from a boat, whatever, it's fishing. And we had a certain passion for it. So I asked Donnie, you remember this, Don? We had this conversation. I said, Don, do you think there would be a platform or place, in the industry or whatever you want to call it, for us to start up something that we could get like-minded individuals together to maybe share information and share this passion? And what did you say to me, Donnie?
Unfortunately, there wasn't such a platform.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, the East Coast, the Atlantic region, and I speak personally from more experience here in New Brunswick, obviously, but the fishing community, it has a habit of, and I mean, everyone has that one species that they really, really just can't get enough of. But there tends to be a lot of little niches. Or even if it's unintentional, you get labeled as you're a bass guy, you're a trout guy, you're a salmon guy, whatever. So there was really no platform that really encompassed fishing as a whole. And that conversation and many conversations thereafter led to the concept of Fish East, something that showcased everything Atlantic Canada had to offer.
And on that note, when we were researching, we were trying to find, what type of media, what type of information, whether it be videos or blogs or articles or whatnot, was available to the mass public to get them into fishing or improve their techniques or skill set. And there were some really good ones out there, but certainly there felt like there was space to do more. So I think that's kind of the birth of how the whole Fish East concept came about. The first step was to create a Facebook page, obviously if you're watching this, you're watching it on our Facebook page. If you've liked our page, if you haven't, go ahead and please like it. We cover content from throughout the Maritime and Atlantic provinces. That's something that we're very proud of. And then the second I guess, idea that came about is there a place to bring like-minded people together so that we can have a collective of information? And that's what we've managed to do. If you've noticed and you've been to our Facebook page or our website at fisheast.com, we have contributors from all over the place, whether from Halifax or Cape Breton or PI or wherever. We have gone out there and seeked out like-minded individuals, passionate individuals, knowledgeable individuals, so that they could provide information and share this information as a collective. And you know what? And look how well that's worked, Donnie. I mean, it's something that's super special. I think that's what we put together.
I think it's really special. I think we've, from, how do I put this? When we started the Facebook page, we were trying to decide how to do content, how to generate content. And then we looked at all those different little niches that there is. And then we said, okay, who breaks those molds? And, we started doing features. I believe the first one we posted was Paul Melanson, who's traditionally known as a striper guy down in St. John. And, Paul's a great guy, but his passion extends so much further than stripers. That's what he's known for, but it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, and, Paul's just one of the collective that we have. We can sit here and drop names all day, and we'd love to, because we love our contributors. Obviously, they make it happen for us. And they're online and they're watching us right now, but please do encourage them by looking at their content, commenting on it, and give them some feedback, because really they're doing it to share. And I think that's one of the great things. Now, I don't want to go too long because we do have Mike waiting for us in the back studio, but I want to talk about a little teaser ad that we put up a few weeks ago. That's right. We're talking about the new, for 2021, Fish East TV show.
That's what else is there to say? I mean, in the times of COVID, when Ben and I started talking about Fish East and we started putting this project together, the TV show was always there in the background. It was something we kind of wanted to strive for. And we had started the motions, going through the motions, and started the gears turning to get a TV show to happen. Had a tentative deal with Wild TV for a 13-episode season. We were originally going to start filming back in April. And we were going to showcase all the entire Atlantic region. We were going to travel throughout the Atlantic region. And the way it worked out, COVID happened, travel was restricted, everything ground to a halt. And we didn't give up on the idea. We just kind of put it on the back burner. And we were lucky enough that New Brunswick fared very well throughout the first wave of COVID. And I hope that we hold on, and avoid a second wave. Travel restrictions opened up. We are within New Brunswick, and we started a conversation with the New Brunswick Department of Tourism, wanting to film some episodes within the province, promoting the staycation idea, showing New Brunswickers a little more of their own province. Because, I mean, as a lifelong New Brunswicker, I haven't traveled everywhere. Ben, you're a new Brunswicker. You're just getting to explore this province really thoroughly for the first time. And, we jumped on the opportunity, and we had a conversation with Wild. And, we made an agreement that the TV show was going to happen on a more limited scale than originally planned. But the week of December 28th, Fish East will go on Wild TV for the first time ever.
And I think there's a lot to be said about that. It's a first season that we're doing it. We're showcasing Atlantic provinces, albeit, a lot of it will be based out of New Brunswick, just because of the way things rolled out with COVID. But looks like we'll be shooting some shows in Nova Scotia. I mean, do we want to tell the audience a little bit about some of the destinations real quick? We have about another minute or two. Yeah, let's do it. Where are we shooting?
Where are we shooting?
Where are we shooting?
Where have we shot?
Well, both.
Well, we started in St. John. Our first episode was filmed in St. John. And what I want people to know about what we're doing is this is not about a trophy fish show. This is about showing the public you can go out to this, this particular municipality for very little money and get on the water or beside the water and catch yourself some fish. They may not be monsters. Accessibility, exactly. Right. So we shot our first episode in St. John. We've traveled to Bathurst. Ben mentioned Nova Scotia. We are set up, I believe it's Labor Day weekend. We're on our way to Yarmouth.
Yarmouth way. And Acadia Shores. Yarmouth and Acadia Shores.
Yarmouth and Acadian Shores. Check out that region down there. We have plans to film in Perth Andover, Plaster Rock, Fredericton, Nakawick, Woodstock, Miramichi. We've already been to Bathurst. Adventures. Yes, we're going to go to Long Lake Adventures to try some of the lake trout fishing up there. And we're just covering, the Fish East New Brunswick road trip. We're covering all, as much of New Brunswick as we can. And, we're going to explore as much of Nova Scotia as the opportunities present themselves. Considering we didn't start filming till the middle of July, we've got a time crunch to get these episodes filmed and have them ready to go to air. So
that's right. Well, two things real quick. If you want to learn more or follow us on our adventures, make sure you obviously like our Facebook page. But our Instagram, we show a lot on our Instagram, little snippets and stuff like that. We do have two really cool, products, if you will, that are coming out real soon. We're doing a fish and chip review everywhere we go. We are going to find out for you guys at home where the best fish and chips in the Maritimes is. That's super exciting. And Donnie, you've got a special segment.
Yeah, this one breaks my heart to do, but we're visiting craft breweries in every community we visit as well. Mm-hmm. So I get a chance to travel around New Brunswick and now into Nova Scotia as well. And, it's just such a tragic thing to have to do, but so, I'll take one for the team, and
it must be tough. Such a team player.
I'll let you guys know where I find some really good craft brew around the America.
And you know what? Last but not least, I know there's some of you guys out there that are fanatical about ice fishing. Don't you worry. Fish East is working on something ice fishing. We got something up our sleeve for that. Well, so that brings us up to speed a little bit. We can go on all night about it. There's a lot to talk about, but let's get down to business, because this segue of talking about ice fishing is a great opportunity to bring on our next guest. You know him as our, I guess, former Minister of Natural Resources for the province of New Brunswick. He is now a candidate for the PC party for the Albert riding. He's a friend. He's an avid outdoorsman. He's a heck of a fisherman. And he's here to take the time to join with us. So why don't we go and add him? Let's bring on Mr. Mike Holland. Yay! Welcome to the show, Mike. Everyone. What's going on, bud?
Well, I'll tell you, I was sitting backstage listening to all this. I think I'm going to drop out of the election and just follow you guys around. It sounds like there's a lot more fun to be had there. So.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of fun. There's no question. But what we're finding for sure, one of the biggest challenges we have is because of the timeline of everything. And so everything was kind of last second. And that's nobody's fault. Unfortunately, COVID, did its job with timelines. But we're happy to do it, obviously. I mean, listen, let's be honest. We are out there fishing in these extraordinary locations for incredible fishing opportunities, meeting absolutely amazing people all over the region. And all we hope is that what we put together reflects, what you've been working so hard to do, which is promote the opportunities that exist here.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you summarized it quite well by talking about the amazing multi-species opportunities we have here in New Brunswick. There's certainly challenges that we face, and we've dealt with those, and we have more of them to deal with over the upcoming years. But we have a resource here in New Brunswick that is worth not just maintaining, but investing in to flourish and to see it become even more of what it could be. We from north to south to east to west, there's incredible opportunities, and I've really been proud to work on that. I don't like hearing the former Minister of Natural Resources. So
I'm sure. I bet you don't.
I'm hoping we can come back to having the conversation where the title can be worn again. But nonetheless, I've been very proud to spend the last couple of years working on making things better, and part of that has been meeting you guys, because one of the things that we need if we have a resource is ambassadors to promote it and to show what it is. And it sounds like you guys are doing exactly what we want in the province of New Brunswick, and that is to take the message that we have to of a resource that's on the move and growing, and then take it outside of the boundaries of the province of New Brunswick. Now, of course, we're dealing with a COVID world now, but I'm confident that we move beyond that, and beyond our borders, there are opportunities for people who have never been here to experience what we have to offer. And you guys have been a champion of that. Not only have we sat across and talked about opportunities in the boardroom, but we've been on the riverbanks, and we've been in the boats, and we've been enjoying that resource together, and it makes it so much more tangible. And I think every minister of whatever department they're involved in needs to get in and amongst the actual files that they deal with. Now, it's easy for me. I spent my whole life doing it, but it's been a pleasure doing it with you guys, and we're just getting started. There's a lot more to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, we do appreciate that. And let's be clear, disclaimer right now. This is not a vote for Mike Holland type of episode. That's not what we're here to do.
But go ahead if you want to. Go ahead if you want to.
We don't. We will. But the truth of the matter is, the truth of the matter is, and I think I speak on behalf of other New Brunswickers when I say this, is that in your time in that seat, you have accomplished some pretty significant stuff that affects us as anglers, and that's what we're here to talk about. We are anglers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I don't shy away from talking about it because it is what it is. You made it happen. So let's talk about it. Let's cherish it. Let's celebrate. Donnie, what do we want to talk about first? Because obviously the list is a little bit long. Oh, can Donnie hear me? Donnie!
Ben's having a few little... Yeah, you're there. You're having a little technical issue and glitching a little bit with... You're there.
Okay, there we go.
So I didn't hear what you said, so I'm not sure why you cut to a full screen of me.
Oh, there you go. I asked you a question. So the question I asked is, I want to take this opportunity to kind of celebrate, some of the major things that have happened in the last 2 years as far as fishing and New Brunswick sportsmen are concerned. And I'm wondering where do we want to start?
I guess the question is where to start, because from an angler's perspective, from an angler's perspective, I would have to say that Mike has, definitely been the most active Minister of Natural Resources I've seen. He had a lot of goals when they took office, and from the expansion of the ice fishing, the combination licenses, so now you no longer have to purchase an open water license and an ice fishing license. Just overall government support and promotion of the angling community as a whole. Mike has really, put his, put his weight and the weight of his office behind promoting our sport, our people, and our resources. And, as an active angler and as someone who's passionate about what we do, I just can't thank him enough. And like Ben mentioned, this is not a Mike Holland, I'm your cheerleader rally. I don't live in his riding, so I couldn't vote for, I can't vote for him anyway. But as an avid angler, Mike, I want to thank you. And there's so many things I know with your protection zones. I know that's something you were very proud of in expanding the protected zones of our natural resources. So maybe I'll just shut my rambling mouth and let you talk for a minute or two about what you feel the most proud of what you've accomplished so far. Sure.
Well, proud of being able to even just assume the office to begin with, because there's not many people that get a chance to in their lifetime fill the role of Minister of Natural Resources. So it's been humbling. It's a dream come true. You're talking to a kid that grew up in Miramichi, fishing the rivers there, hunting the woods there, working in the woods on our farm. And I've seen a 40-year period of history in the province of New Brunswick. And although I'm proud of it and enjoyed it, there were a number of things I felt we could do better with, and still can. So as it relates to angling, I felt very strongly that, it's changed over the last 40 years. And so what I wanted to do was put a number of things in place that could be built on. One builds on the other, builds on the other, builds on the other. We've made some regulation changes, and we've made a variety of different opportunities to lower the bar and let more people get involved in our sport. Before we had the free ice fishing license or included in your regular license, 2 years ago, we opened up ice fishing days, which would allow people to come out and experience ice fishing without the need for a license. One of the things I believe that we need for the sustainability of not only our resources, but for our sport, is the introduction of new fishers, women, men, children, youth, particularly, because that's the generation that's coming, and we need to make sure that they have a really low bar and an entry to it. The other thing is making sure that there's a resource there that's sustainable for them to continue with. So, with that grid in mind, I knew that there was some low-hanging fruit and some regulations we could change. But the biggest thing we needed to tackle was habitat and ensure that we were on a move towards an increase, not a decrease. And not only a move towards an increase, just an arbitrary increase, but a move that was going to be taking very deliberate, intentional steps to increase habitat in a way that promoted biodiversity and ecological sustainability. So one of the things we embarked on, and I'm in the middle of it now, is the doubling of our protected and conserved areas in the province of New Brunswick. Now, people think, well, that's woods, right? And well, yeah, to a large degree it is. But what an incredible opportunity. We're almost there with adding the equivalent of 19 Fundy National Park size blocks into conservation spread throughout the entire province. Now, when we do that deliberately, and that's the key, we can target those areas to ensure that protections are being put into sensitive waterways, cold water systems for Atlantic salmon, work on areas like the Miramichi region, the Restigouche region, and then the amazing St. John River Valley system, where there's so many opportunities there as well. Right now, we deal with a variety of different arbitrary things, such as buffer zones, etc. We're not going to make it arbitrary anymore. We're going to let bodies of water tell us what they need for sustainable ecosystems, and then flesh that out. That's historic. We more than doubled the conserved areas in New Brunswick in a year. In 2014, the conserved and protected areas in the province of New Brunswick went from 28% down to 23%. You're hovering near areas where you've got to be concerned. So in the space of the short period of time that we've been at this, we've turned that around so that those conserved and protected areas at the end of the next year will be at 30%. So not only did we meet the levels where we were at, we're going to exceed them. And we're going to do it very carefully to ensure that our waterways see a benefit from that, whether it be spawning beds that are protected from silt, whether it be cold water that ensures that those tributaries continue to feed that water at that temperature into the major river systems. The list goes on. And then when we do that, then we're going to be able to turn around and say, we've got populations that are healthy and moving in the right direction. So what do we do with it? Now comes the time to promote, which is why it was so important for us to be able to get you guys in front of the Department of Tourism so that they could show, so you could show them. And hats off to you guys, because for the first time ever, the Department of Tourism has been receiving presentations about the opportunity, the viability, and the economic generation that promoting our fishing, multi-species fishing here in New Brunswick can offer. I mean, we certainly got a long-standing history of guides and outfitting in New Brunswick, but we're expanding that paradigm to show that New Brunswick, if open for business for multi-species angling, there's an incredible opportunity there. Well, so I hope it's a combination of our efforts and willing participants like yourself. But I'm proud of the fact that this work started today is going to see anglers that aren't even born yet enjoying that resource. So that's a summary. As short-winded as a politician.
Honestly, that was pretty brief. No, that was very well said. Thanks, Mike. I took the moment to take two notes down. You mentioned two keywords. One of them was sustainability, and the other one was future anglers. So you mentioned that this is a unprecedented situation where, and maybe it's COVID. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. When things are meant to happen, things are meant to happen. Me moving here, me meeting you, Donald hooking up. The timing of it all might just have played out, to our advantage. But at the end of the day, I think the reason behind what we're doing is one and the same. And what we want to do is nurture and promote the resource that we have, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Yeah. Me coming from outside the province and moving into New Brunswick, I can tell you firsthand that I meet a lot of people. I've met a lot of people since I've been here. I've met people, at the stores. I've met people at the docks. I've met people on the water. And it surprises me a little bit, and this is me speaking uncandidly, how I feel that outside of New Brunswick, people celebrate multi-species in a different manner. Now, I'm not sure why that is, and maybe you guys can help shed the light on that. But I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. I grew up fishing perch. this is the first fish I ever hooked into as a Cub Scout. In fact, growing up, and then I had my own kids, became a scout leader, and I introduced them to fishing perch. And now they're a little bit older, and they adore it. They like targeting it, they like fishing for it, and they like eating it. Right? It's a full circle. It's the whole thing. And I know one day if they have children, they will show them the same thing.
Yeah.
I realized quickly that when I started talking about perch and how passionate I was about perch, I got a really funny look on people's faces when I started, really expressing myself. And I wasn't sure why. And I asked Donnie. I remember calling Donnie, why are people looking at me funny when I say I get excited about perch? And, I'll leave the floor to you.
It seems to be for a lot of us, and I will admit I've been guilty of this myself for years. You start out just fishing, whatever bites. If you catch anything, you've had a good day. But then you get a little more into it, and you progress. You start with something smaller, or with the concept of if something bites, it bites, and then you get down to targeting a specific species. And then for whatever reason, once we get that in our heads, we focus all our efforts on that one specific species. You buy the gear for that. You don't diversify your gear. You have, for me as, traditionally a smallmouth guy or a chain pickerel guy, it's, pretty much the same level of rods as far as strength and line grades and everything else. So I just didn't have any diversity in my gear. As to why we do it, traditional habits, I really cannot say. It's just the local mindset. And I will admit, I live in Sussex. I live 30 seconds, less than that if you're driving, from the Kennebecasis River. I've been here in this house for 6 years, or going on 6 years. I've never fished the Kennebecasis until this spring because there was no smallmouth in it. So exploring this project has opened me up and opened my world up. And, every time we go out, I literally have hooked one smallmouth so far this year. And I'm almost embarrassed to say how small it was. Ben witnessed it. Luckily for me, the cameras weren't rolling right then. But I've had a chance to do things. I've never shad fished before this year. That was an absolute blast on 4-pound line. Mike was with us that day. I've targeted stripers more ways than I can count since we started this project. It's made me grow as an angler, and I think it's definitely opened my eyes, and I'm having a blast.
That's awesome.
Mike, one thing I wanted to make you aware of, I told you I'm a perch head. I love fishing perch. I like the whole thing. New Brunswick and the Maritimes have a world-class, and I say world-class, white perch fishery.
Absolutely.
I'm talking every time I go out and target white perch, I'm starting to figure them out. I keep beating my personal best every time I go.
That's
you can check my Instagram feed. I caught one the other day, was over 15 inches. It was.
Are you kidding me?
I'm talking 2-pound white perch. So from where I'm from, I used to fish sunfish, yellow perch. Crappie was kind of my go-to. That was my what I was addicted to, was my crack cocaine, if you will. Man, forget about the crappie. Those white perch for me are like baby stripers. They fight hard. They're excellent table fare, and I strongly recommend anybody's listening, if you want some tips on finding some giant white perch, check out our website. I always talk about it. Be happy to answer your questions. But just to segue from what Donald was saying about how we've had this opportunity to delve into the world of multi-species and try fishing in all these scenarios. It is incredible in one province, and we're not the biggest province, let's be honest, as far as territory is concerned. But we have now had the chance to go from, pretty much the furthest you can go northeast, down to the southwest. And it's just speaking with the diversity that is out there for people to explore, Mike. I can't talk enough about it.
Absolutely. No, I grew up in the Miramichi River system, and I fished trout and salmon. Salmon even less, because you could always run out to a brook and fish trout. Mm-hmm. So it honestly wasn't until I was starting to get gray hair that I started to diversify.
That's the barometer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was taking my kids out fishing, and thought I heard about then the internet came along and showed me that, oh, I didn't know this was here. Honestly, I grew up here in the province, didn't know. And so, it's been probably 15 years since I started diversifying what it was that I was putting in the creel and or catching and releasing. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And I've taken kids out and on yellow perch, in the Hammond River or the St. John River system. And I mean, you get kids on yellow perch, and I mean, you just got sweat running down your forehead because you're just, you're pulling one off and putting it back in and putting new lures on and kids are having a blast. And so that's when I started to realize that, oh, we've got something here. And then the other thing is, because I'm getting gray hair, I think about the people that mentored me. Some of them aren't even here anymore. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we continue to pass that tradition on to our youth. Now, in the role that I have, it was incumbent upon me to make sure that I created the atmosphere that would allow people like you to do what you do. And then that collaboration will bear fruit down the road, like I said, to generations that aren't even born yet. And that strikes me with something that I want your viewers to take home and mull around here. We're talking about changing habitat and conservation efforts as it relates to the woods and the water of the province of New Brunswick. It's very easy to start this work. You just have to have the will, the desire, and give people a clear direction, which I hopefully have done. But it's not very easy to see the results of that work. And one of the things, or the toughest things I've had to deal with, is making historic changes, but doubling the conservation area in the province of New Brunswick today doesn't show you anything tomorrow. And as a rule, typically we're very impatient people to begin with. But when it comes to taking some of the steps that we've done, actually getting involved in our put and take stocking programs, and we drastically increased those, and we're doing a lot of things that are going to show results or going to yield fruit tomorrow. In the areas of conservation, buffers, forestry, it's going to take years to see the results. But if it doesn't get started today, we won't see that tomorrow.
That's right.
So it's important that I want all of the folks that are watching is that when you hear about conservation efforts that are being embarked upon, look at it from the perspective of what's taking place. And then when you have your questions, ask about timelines. When will we start to see results of this, so that we have a more realistic timeline of when we can see tangible results? Because honestly, I believe that the outdoor community in New Brunswick has been more than patient and more than overlooked when it comes to making gains in that areas of conservation. So when they start to see it happening, it's understandable why there's a bit of an impatience or an urgency to see tangible results. But you can grow a plant in a pot in a couple of weeks or a month. Changing the dynamic of a forest and waterways to biological sustainability, that's a long-term process that we're embarked upon. So as folks are watching what we're doing, and as we start to see positive announcements, you can't look out the window tomorrow and see those results, but they're coming. And I encourage everybody to look at things with that little bit of a longer lens towards the future and those anglers that aren't even born yet.
Absolutely. And that's, of course, along the theme of sustainability. Quickly shifting gears a little bit back to the ice fishing conversation. So
Yeah.
When I got here, I was told that I needed to buy a fishing license for summertime.
Yes.
And then I needed, for some reason, to buy a second fishing license to ice fish. And then I took a look at what ice fishing lakes were actually available for that ice fishing permit. I got to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, so was I.
But then I see this press release come through, and I see this giant list of lakes added to the list. Of course, what do? I start putting up Google Maps and start pinpointing exactly where all these lakes are, because I don't know where any of these lakes are, and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Mike, talk to us a little bit about your, the drive behind making that happen.
Well, it's a common, as somebody that ice fishes myself, in southeastern New Brunswick, there was some limited opportunities. We had a lake not far from here where there was put and take trout. For years it hadn't been stocked, wasn't great. You could sit and look over a hole more than you could count on being able to catch anything. And then, of course, our tidal smelt fishing in the shacks, okay, which I did and loved, all of it. But I also was aware that there were significantly more bodies of water that had the opportunity to provide us ice fishing opportunities. So I said, why are we not fishing them? And I've asked this question for a lot longer than I was the minister. This is something that I often mused about, and I thought it's an untapped opportunity. So when I got into the department, I said, I want to expand ice fishing. Well, the reason why it had never been expanded was quite honestly very off-putting. It was just bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah.
So it was something we cut through rather, and I said I want to change it. And my department staff said, yes, absolutely. But there were other governmental regulations beyond our provincial regulations that actually prevented it. As the Minister of Natural Resources for the province of New Brunswick, I couldn't authorize ice fishing in New Brunswick. So I thought that was just ludicrous. So we found out what those regulations were. I found a loophole around them. And then I said, let's go. So what we did was we created a pretty significant expansion. We've expanded 77 different bodies of water where you can ice fish throughout the province of New Brunswick. And the goal is that that's a living list. So, we may determine over time that some areas aren't as productive as others. And then we may find that we've overlooked some areas that could be real good opportunities as well. So that's the beginning. It was a list where we could begin and start. So we're looking forward to continuing. I speak in the present tense. It's a present tense hopeful that we can continue that work to expand those locations. The other thing is the idea of buying 2 fishing licenses was ludicrous. We weren't selling any ice fishing licenses. Mm-hmm. So I said, let's include that in the regular fishing license. Well, the first objection was, well, we're going to lose revenue. And I said, no, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to gain revenue. Because if we do lower the bar again and allow people an opportunity to have a more simplistic way and a bonus and a benefit, then they're going to use the ability to ice fish more. And it goes beyond. See, you can't have the short-sightedness or the blinders of the price of a license. You know as well as I do that the license is the tip of an iceberg. You get your gas, you get your lures, you get your gear, you get your lunch along the way. You get your beverages. Yes, your Diet Coke.
Yes, your Diet Coke.
But I looked at it and I said, back up and look at this at 30,000 feet, and we're leaving money on the table, and we're limiting opportunities for people to come and enjoy themselves. And so we committed to that. We stepped into it, and I was very proud of the fact that we opened it up. Now, I say living list because I never want to do anything that could be at the expense of the resource. Okay. The resource is ultimately king. Our ability to enjoy it is a privilege, not a right. And the protection of the resource is important. So in the event that we find that some of these lakes are holding sensitive amounts of fish or whatnot, and we need to adjust, I'm also up for that. We find that there's areas where we're overlooking them. I'm also up for that. Once again, I like the theme of we're just getting started with all of our initiatives. And that, of course, is one of them. And boys, it was received very well. And unfortunately, though, because of the time constraints of the job, I didn't get to go out and do much more than catch a couple of smelt last year. So I'm looking forward to expanding and getting out there too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's made me expand my collection of gear to include, setups for more diverse species, right? Because now you've opened up lakes that have species like lake trout, like landlocked salmon, some salmonoids, maybe some brookies through the ice. So certainly it diversifies the whole setup and makes the whole adventure that much more exciting, because I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to explore when it comes to ice fishing. And I see like Jamie Monroe here in our comments is rooting for more ice fishing in Nova Scotia. I think, from where I'm from, ice fishing is a big deal. We have a long winter. Let's face it. It's a long winter, folks.
Yeah.
Like as much as we don't want to talk, we are in the cold for quite a few months a year.
Mike, when it comes to the ice fishing, I know I heard for a number of years there was always rumor of this list of lakes that was going to be opened and going to be opened. And you said it was held up by bureaucratic red tape. Maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. Any idea how long that list was floating around and how long it was actually tied up for? Because we heard the rumor for years that it was going to happen, and it never actually transpired until recently. So I'm just wondering how long was that list floating around before someone was actually able to pull the trigger on it?
Oh, quite a while. I mean, I've been a member of Fish and Game Clubs in New Brunswick for quite a while. I've been a member of the executive of them. And when I'd seen us put resolutions together to increase ice fishing in these locations for years and years and years. Once again, whether it be at the boardroom of a Fish and Game Club or a tailgate or sitting on the water. We've been talking about this for a long time. I don't know how long it was, but I do know that I was committed to getting in there and fixing it as soon as I walked through the door. And that even took me a year. So, that's probably one of my biggest frustrations. I've got a staff that's phenomenal. They're just standing at attention to follow the direction that I'm giving them. But rules and regulations. So that being the case, the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. We decided that I don't care how many years that list had been sitting around, it was going to come into play as being activated on. Come hell or high water, and we did.
No, absolutely cool. So all you ice fishermen out there in New Brunswick, and those of you in Nova Scotia and other, if you want to come on down, check out all these great lakes and opportunities.
Whoever said that from Nova Scotia, I agree.
Yeah,
my girlfriend lives in the Wallace area, so I buy my ice fishing license for Nova Scotia as well. So maybe I can see you on some hard water down there too.
Awesome. I see Robert here, Robert Fish Izumi. He's mentioned Grand Lake Bourbon. Robert, that is on our list. Don't you worry, bud. Right, Donnie? I've been talking about those Grand Lake Bourbons all year.
Right? I've talked to Robert not that long ago, and I can assure you, Robert, we will be in touch.
All right.
Before we go on, I do want to make one quick note. Mike, when you were talking there a little bit earlier about what you had done, I just took a quick glance at my phone, and of course someone brought the politics into it again, so I'm going to reiterate this once more in case someone missed it. We said it earlier, and I'm going to say it once more. When we booked this show and we were planning this show, Mike was the sitting Minister of Natural Resources. A couple days ago there was an election called, so this is not a support Mike Holland PC candidate show. This is us speaking with the most recent Minister of Natural Resources. It wouldn't matter what party he represented in his position, whether he was, party doesn't matter. Mike was in the job, and he's done a good job at it. I don't care at this point what color his tie was. We're here for the fishing resource. So I just wanted to say that one more time in case someone missed it earlier in the broadcast. We're here to talk about fishing, not politics.
Speaking about talking about fishing, sorry, Mike, did you have something to say there?
I did. I just wanted to say that's a good point, Donald. I didn't see what the comments were, but I want to give a tip of the hat to every color that was sitting in the legislature, because we did something this time around that I'm very proud of. Whatever, doesn't matter who I am. I couldn't operate without the collaboration of all of the political parties. So I'm actually pretty colorblind and focused on the resource. And in fact, we've had all party outdoor caucuses where you take your color off at the door and you come on in and you start talking about making resources better. So by no means are we saying that there's a white knight that comes in on any particular political party, but it's nice to see politicians talking about doing right by the outdoors from all political parties. So it's not something that I happen to be the one that sat in the chair, but it was a collaboration from everybody, and couldn't happen without it.
Very good, very good. Taking a question here from some of our viewers. He's one of our contributors from Nova Scotia, and it's a question I was going to ask as well from Nate Dusome. Mike, how do you feel about muskie and getting them to a sport fish status?
I can't wait to catch one. First of all,
we got some big ones here.
Stop it! I think that's the only fish that I have not landed. But it's an amazing fishery. It's an incredible opportunity here in the province of New Brunswick. And I recently met with some folks related to muskie fishing. And sport fishing designation, that's great. But there's some other things that we can talk about there as well. Now, take any kind of political hat off me. As a fisherman, I will continually advocate for slot sizes, for reduced bag limits, for ensuring that if there are calls, that doesn't take place. The sports fishing designation is one component, but just designating something as a sport fish and not taking other conservation efforts into place is kind of like putting a band-aid over a bullet hole. I want to take and ensure that we are taking very serious the ways that we manage the muskie that we have here in the province of New Brunswick, and ensure that the sustainability, that word just keeps coming up, but the sustainability of the fisheries there. It's I went out a few times fishing muskie, got skunked every time, but I had the opportunity to look around while I was doing it. And I saw there was one time, it was just a few of us guys, nothing official, no big tournament. And I was looking at $1 million worth of gear sitting on the riverbank where we were. And it struck me that that's a bunch of guys and gals that were just taking a weekend and going out and exploring a piece of water to see what was out there. How much more could it be if we deliberately and intentionally ensured that that was a fish that we wanted to see sustainable? So hopefully that's an answer.
You know, I'm going to say my 2 cents here. Muskie is a prized species where I'm from and from throughout many parts of Canada, obviously, for its veracity, for its ferociousness, for its elusiveness. It's a trophy fish through and through.
Yep.
New Brunswick is blessed to have that species in its waterways, because it is not everywhere that it's available. We happen to be the only province in the Atlantic province to have it. So if there's anything that we can do to help it, I'm certainly on board for that. We as Fishies will certainly do our best to showcase it for y'all, because you need to see what it's all about. I mean, no, it's not the fish you're going to catch on every cast, right, Mike?
Yeah.
But when you get one, it's worth all the pain. So
and I saw a couple of comments from your viewers as well.
Yeah, sure.
Something I wanted to talk about there. Balance is also a key here with everything that we do, whether it be forestry, balancing industry and conservation. And I used to joke that my job was to cut the trees and save the trees, which is just a phenomenal paradox, but it's achievable. And part of that with fisheries is we have multi-species fish in the waters throughout the province of New Brunswick. We have the iconic and majestic Atlantic salmon that a lot of the history of this very province was built on. The First Nations symbolism with that is incredible. And so I'm a person that purports balance and not at the exclusion of anything. I'm not in the business of extincting anything. We've got river systems where if there was muskie in it, that would be a problem. But we do have a diverse enough river system where the muskies they seem to play in their own little sandbox, and there's others that aren't as encroached upon. So that being the case, there's work we have to do to make sure that balance is sustained, because we want to see, like the old saying, the incoming tide rises all the boats in the harbor. If we embark upon this conservation work, let's do it to the benefit of everything that calls the waterways of New Brunswick home.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. Lot of passionate anglers here wanted to ask a bunch of questions. I guess this question is kind of similar to the muskie question. There's largemouth bass in the St. John River. Largemouth bass in the St. John. So that again is the only location that I can think of. And Donnie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong as well. Is the only location I know of in all the Maritimes to have largemouth bass.
Well, no, the St. John River is not, but New Brunswick
is.
You've got the St. John and the St. Croix system.
Correct. What's your personal feeling about having largemouth bass in there?
Myself? Well, I ask myself when people ask you about species that are here, I'll tell you what I'm not in favor of. I'm not in favor of the bucket biologist that grabs a bucket full of fish and goes and dumps them in a river system, puts them in a lake, plays God, so to speak, with the dynamic mix of species that we have in our waterways. In no way, shape, or form is that condoned, and I think it should be cut off at the knees every time we ever hear of it, see it, and I encourage everybody to be an advocate for not in any way, shape, or form messing with the balance of our species in the waters. But at the end of the day, the largemouth are in the St. Croix and the St. John River system, where I think that in that system, I personally don't perceive them as anything more than potentially a new complementary species that can come into those river systems. You throw a 5-gallon bucket of them in sensitive waterways with other fish where they're not there. No, not interested in that at all. But I've caught them, and they're an amazing fishery as well. And once again, with balance, I think it's something that can yield opportunity.
I think
look at it from this perspective. If somebody says, when we talk about species that weren't here and now they're here, well, we can say that about the white-tailed deer. The white-tailed deer is not native to the province of New Brunswick.
That's an invasive species, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not a hunter, but that's what I read.
Well, and so at the end of the day, I believe that the Department of Natural Resources has the job to manage, deal with, create balance, and be responsible as it relates to any fins, fur, or feather that calls New Brunswick home at this particular moment. And the species that are here 2,000 years from now may be different, will be different than what we see here today. Just because something wasn't here, and once again, don't hear me as advocating the introduction, but if it's here, I have an obligation to manage that.
Yeah, very, very, very well said. Very well said. I think what I want to add to that is I make a lot of references in a lot of seminars and people I talk to about the St. John River. And my observation about the St. John River is I contrast it to the St. Lawrence River. And I say that because it has similar characteristics in the sense it's a very long river system, lots of current. It flows, into the ocean. It has dams on it, just like the St. John does. And it has an incredible plethora of species that live within that ecosystem. From what I've seen and speaking with, some of the top anglers, especially up and down the St. John River Valley, I mean, one concern, and I see this concern when I go down to Nova Scotia and some lakes, is the food source, right? Like there's lakes we visited where, everything seems perfect, but there's no food for the fish to grow. Well, I think anybody who's listening or has ever been on the river can attest to the fact that there is no shortage of food on the St. John River system.
No, that's right.
I mean, it is unbelievable, whether it's crayfish or minnows or alewife or Gaspereau, as they call it, or smell. I mean, there is a ton of food. So I think, if we're talking about more sensitive waterways like you had referred to, maybe more the salmon waterways and that type of stuff. That's certainly going to be a concern. But if we're talking about an already established multi-species ecosystem, man, I look at that as I'm very excited to see how that develops.
Well, and another thing that's philosophical more than practical, but one of the things I watched over my 40 years of actually getting close to 45 now, years of being involved in fishing around the province of New Brunswick, a couple of things I noticed as we moved into the internet age. We as anglers need to show a lot more solidarity. If I'm a fly fisherman and you're throwing you're throwing rubber frogs, we can live together. If I'm a salmon fisherman and you're a trout fisherman, we can still get along. In fact, there's significantly more that unites us than divides us. However, it seems as though there's a lot of focus on what divides us. And I'll tell you one thing that limits and inhibits opportunities for us to expand is that when regulatory bodies look at the anglers and they can't get on the same page, and the anglers enjoy a good fight amongst each other, then their motivation to do and move fast for us is limited because they look at us and say, well, they can't even get along themselves. Why should we step up and move? So one thing I'd like to encourage everybody, your watchers, your viewers here, is that we are all passionate anglers. We love angling and we dedicate our time, effort, and too much of our money to it. So let's work at opportunities to reach out across those divides and mend some fences here. Because I'll tell you this right now, we're seeing that in the hunting community, and we are seeing it in the angling community as well. But when brothers and sisters link up with solidarity in the unification of wanting to make their sport more dynamic and expand it, that's a wall of ambition that's very hard to stand in the way of. And so I've said this for years. That's why became part of fishing game clubs. That's why I was on the executive of fishing game clubs, to make sure that there was an articulate voice that was able to talk about the unifying factors about outdoors people, because there's 110,000 licenses in some way, shape, or form, not counting trapping licenses here in the province of New Brunswick. Let's talk about influence with governments. I'm not the minister anymore, so I can say this. So,
Exactly.
one of the things that makes action happen is large blocks of people that move in a direction. And if the angling and the hunting community melded their efforts, the trappers joined us, the hiking enthusiasts, the ATV enthusiasts, we represent a block of New Brunswickers. Like, New Brunswick is the size of Mississauga population wise, right? We've got half of that if we got on the same page, we could move mountains. So I just encourage us all to find the opportunities to complement and not compete with each other.
Well, I think I couldn't have said that better ourselves. I think in the beginning of the show, we kind of highlighted the mantra of how we got fishies together and what it's all about. We're trying to keep anglers together, get them on the same page, multi-species, and accessibility and sustainability, I think, has been the key words, right, of this conversation. So, Mike, I know you got to go.
Yeah.
I want, on behalf of Fish East and all our listeners and watchers or viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We certainly wish you the best on your conquest, and
Wow.
And sincerely from everybody here at Fish East, thank you for what you've done thus far, and we wish you the best.
I'll tell you this right now, and I want to finish by saying this. Regardless of whatever takes place in the next election, if I get blown off the face of the earth, if I never get to walk in the legislature again, I'm an ally to the angler, and I will continue to use my voice like I did well prior to being elected. I'm not going to lie, I want to get back and do it again as somebody with influence and impact, and I will plan on continuing that long after that the sun is set on my political career. I love our water systems. I love fishing. I have my whole life. I commend you, and regardless of whatever position I find myself in, I got your back 100%, and I've got the back of the angler of New Brunswick 100%.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So on that note,
thank you, Mike.
On that note, I've got another conference call I got to go on. So,
of course you do.
Thanks for everybody that tuned in. I love everybody that shares that passion, and we'll see you on the water.
All right. Take care, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Wow. That was a lot said.
I think that could have gone on a lot longer, but I know he's got, time commitments, but it was nice to have a chance to sit down and talk with Mike. He there's no doubt. And like he said, doesn't matter whether he's sitting in the legislature or not, you cannot deny the man's passion for the outdoors.
No, and as he mentioned, he said himself, it'll go long past whatever seat he sits in. But we've got to know Mike pretty good, and he's an angler and he's a passionate outdoorsman just like us, and that's what it's all about. I know we tried to get all your questions answered. We didn't quite get a chance to get everybody. We do our best, but obviously he was on a limited time schedule. I see Matt Cito just wrote Nova Scotia needs a Mike Holland.
I see above that another gentleman says in Nova Scotia, the Nova Scotia anglers want the pickerel population eliminated. I think that's a little generic to say that Nova Scotia anglers want the pickerel population eliminated. Obviously, there are some that do, but then again, there's some that want everything except species X eliminated. And I'm not going to get into pointing fingers. And, pickerel have established themselves in Nova Scotia, good or bad or indifferent to it. It's the same as the different species that have been moved around legally or otherwise here in New Brunswick. And like I said, we don't condone moving fish. But I think Mike said it best when he talked about balance. And yes, with an aggressive species like pickerel, striking a balance is not going to be easy. And
nothing moves fast. I mean, like he said, something that he put into place now, we might only see the results, years from now. And when it comes to dealing with, wildlife and environment, that's nothing moves that fast. If you don't mind, Donnie, I just want to point out one of the points that Marlon Prince is on here, and he was talking about muskie, and obviously he's a huge ambassador to the muskie fishing as the sitting president of the New Brunswick chapter of Muskies Canada. I know that he's working very hard to promote muskie and obviously to see if we can't get the sport fishing. What's the word I'm looking for? Not the title, but the
designation.
The designation, and of course, maybe up some of that slot limit. If you guys are interested in helping out or being a part of that movement to protect the muskie, give my man Marlon Prince a message. I'm sure they're always looking for new members of their chapter, and I know he's doing good things for the muskie, especially in the St. John River. Listen, this is our first show. We're very blessed to have had Mike. We've got lots of shows to come. Every 2 weeks, we're going to be on here. And we want your feedback of what type of content, what type of guests that you want to have on this show. We're here to talk about multi-species fishing. We're here talking about Atlantic Canadian fishing opportunities. We're going to give you updates from the road, from the show that we're filming. But one thing I'm going to take this opportunity, Donnie, I think we're going to do it right here. Yeah, we're going to do it.
You want to do it right now?
We're going to do it right now. All right. So about our Facebook page. Like I said, you're here, so you know about it. Right now, live on this podcast, we are going to introduce to you our brand new website that we have spent a lot of time putting together for you folks.
If you've attempted to visit the website in the last few days, you will see that it's gone to just a splash page.
Yeah.
We had a website up, and it was good. But, the last few days, you would have just seen a splash page. And once Ben clicks the right button, if you visit fisheast.com, you're going to see a whole lot more than just a splash page.
Yeah, so check it out. This is our 2.0 version. We spent a lot of time. Obviously, this could not have been possible without all our fantastic Fish East contributors. These are guys that we call the collective. These are guys that we call our peers. When I say guys, of course, I mean men, women, both. Whether it's fly fishing, whether it's kayak fishing, shore fishing, boat fishing, saltwater, freshwater, it doesn't matter. If you are into fishing in Atlantic Canada, fisheast.com will be your designation for all things moving forward. We've got videos on there. We've got great detailed articles about techniques. If you like cooking fish and harvesting and having table fare and eating fish, we've got catch and cook. What else do we have, Donnie? I can't talk enough about this new website.
There's going to be a little bit of everything. The website's going to share our blogs from our contributors. Not everything's on video. Sometimes you get an article. We've got a blog section, the video section, like Ben said, catch and cook, techniques, or just action. You know what, Donnie? I'm going
to try a feature here while you're talking. I'm going to try to screen share this.
You're going to try and screen share this. Now, I'll warn everyone in advance. Ben lives in a slightly more rural area, so his high speed isn't as fast as some, so his audio may glitch while he's doing this.
Oh, but check this out. There we are.
Okay, he's pulling up the new website. Oh God, look at that ugly guy in the top right as soon as you open it. I apologize for that, folks.
But you're next.
Yeah, Ben's audio is glitching a little bit from the data drop of screen sharing this. But ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing there for the first time is the new Fish East website. The nice thing about it, it's searchable. So not that you would want to search for me, but if you go on into the search window and you can search tags, you can search kayak fishing, you can search by author. If you get to establish a certain one of our contributors that you really like their content, you can search them by name. You can search by species. It will all come up that that will let you navigate through the site. There's a TV section, so anything linked directly to the Fish East TV show, it's going to be on there as well. I see Ben scrolling through looked like one of Matt Zito's articles. Matt's down in Nova Scotia on Lake Kinnisack, I believe it is. What is it? Fish on Guide Services, down there catching some big chain pickerel. That looks like Jeff Rathburn with some smallmouth bass from earlier this year. It's just great to see, and I love working. Ben called them our contributors, the collective. First and foremost, each and every one of them, I like calling them a friend. And in all honesty, there's some of them I have not met in person yet, but I still consider them all a friend because we all share the same passion. And it doesn't matter to me whether they fish white perch, trout, salmon. They use conventional gear. They use a fly rod. You poor folks may get to witness me using a fly rod on Fish East TV this year. I picked one up in Bathurst for the first time ever on camera just a few weeks ago, and I will tell you that when you pick up a 9-weight fly rod for your first ever experience and you're wading in the Bay de Chaleur, probably wasn't the best choice for my first time trying it.
Great place to start, and you got some good foundation training for it. Donnie, this Fishies journey is just starting out. We've got our Facebook page where you can always get up to date. We got our Instagram, obviously. Our website now that you've seen, go check it out, fishies.com. Our podcast, which will be happening, Fishies Live, every 2 weeks. Again, if you guys got ideas on who to bring in or topics to cover Atlantic Canadian wide, we can bring in up to 6 guests at a time. So we can have panels, we can have specialists. If we want to talk about, fly fishing, we want to talk about salt or stripers or whatever it may be, we can do that and have a full expert panel on it. We could have above and beyond the live podcast, of course, there's the TV show. So, and the extra content segments we mentioned earlier on this segment about our fishing chip review and Donnie's beer drinking bonanza. Craft brew spotlight profile video or whatever you want to call it.
If you have friends that are the Facebook resistance, the few people, not that there's a lot left, but there is some that are not on Facebook. All our video content is on our website, but it's also on YouTube. Check out the Fish East YouTube channel. Our content will all be fed into there as well. So, and no, Jeff Rathburn, I don't have hooks in the back of my head. So, sure. But thanks for asking.
There you go. Well, I think we've covered everything for our first episode. We're just over an hour. That's kind of the time frame we want to live in, that space between an hour 15 minutes. We're looking forward. We'll be look for our announcements on our Facebook page as far as our next CMA Live. Where are we headed to next?
No. Ben, this is not CMA Live. This is Fish East Live.
All right, I do 2 podcasts. Fish East Live. Where are we headed to next?
Where are we headed to next? Yeah. This weekend coming.
Yep.
We're going to be targeting some smallmouth bass in Perth, Andover.
Oh, giants,
biggest smallmouth in the province of New Brunswick, as far as I'm concerned. So I shouldn't say that. There are a couple lakes that I would say are probably right up there, maybe, but they're not accessible. They're harder to get to. You got to know where they're at.
Yeah.
And then the following weekend, we're going to be doing some playing around in Nakawik, doing some filming there. And then after that, the Fish East road trip kicks into high gear. And I think almost every weekend between Labor Day and the end of October, we're on the road filming for Fish East to showcase what this province, not this province, but this region has to offer.
Labor Day weekend, we're taking the Digby Rose Ferry. The Fundy
Rose. We're heading across the Digby Ferry,
Ferry.
Yarmouth and the Acadian shores, and we're going to go down there. We're going to play around with some of those Nova Scotia chain pickerel and some Nova Scotia smallmouth, and we'll see what other opportunities present themselves. And to reiterate what Ben said about guests, if you have a recommendation, send me a message. Send the Fish East page a message. From anywhere across Atlantic Canada. We know there's a lot of great people out there. There's a lot of people that are active in our community, and they all deserve their time in the spotlight, and that's what Fish East is all about. So let's get those recommendations in because, we've got another show coming up in 2 weeks, and I'm excited. Honestly, we haven't even discussed a guest yet. I'll be honest about that. I'm pretty excited to see who we could stumble across.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Donnie, for your time tonight. So, folks, my closing remark for the show, fantastic first episode. Thank you for taking time to tune in. If you're not watching it live, hopefully you get to watch this on your free time. We'll be available either on our Facebook page or, of course, on our new website, fishies.com. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Like Donnie said, send us information, your ideas, and we'll do our very best to get those shows and that content that you want. Thank you once again for tuning in. Fish East Live, very first episode. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Peace out.